Well, hello, sophomores. Welcome to Lesson 4 of Unit 2 notes. These are our last notes, the very last notes of Unit 2. So we're nearing a milestone here. I bet that makes you happy. And I've also decided to do away with the study guide right now on this unit. I think the study guide might just be doing a little bit too much for you because you're going to be taking a test on Unit 4 and you'll have all of your notes that you can look over. So a study guide might just be, at this point, extra work. I guess maybe if we were in school more on a regular basis, the study guide would be more of a real help to you. We'll see. I'll do some more thinking about it. But this is the last section of notes. This is Lesson 4, and this is about the Middle and Southern colonies. Remember, all of Unit 2 is trying to show you one thing. John Cabbage Cabot, Giovanni Caboto, he claimed land in the New World for the country of England. And the king owned this land. And then we're trying to show in Unit 2 America's beginnings, because people began to leave England and move to the New World and live in colonies. It started out, a rugged race for survival with Jamestown, a business venture, and then religious groups that we're going to learn started to find their way to the New World where they could practice religion, and that's what we're going to keep learning about. And then these colonies began to grow, and more people came over in the Great Migration, and then, people had kids while they were here, and it just started to continue to grow in population. I want to activate your brain. I wish you were here at school today, because what I would do is I would put this word up on the board. Tolerance. What does tolerance mean? Think about that for a minute. While you're sitting there watching the computer, tolerance. Some of you might be lactose intolerant. What does that mean if you're lactose intolerant? It means you can't take what? That's right. I think I may have heard Isabel Clark answer this question through the internet. She says that lactose intolerant means you can't take milk, dairy products. Very good, Isabel. What does tolerance mean? I think that most of you guys are kind of figuring it out a little bit if you haven't Googled it already, but tolerance or tolerate means how much you can stand, being able to take something, being able to put up with. Tolerance. I mean, we all have to put up with Marissa Harris in fifth period. Whew. Just kidding, Marissa. We tolerate you. But tolerance means, being able to put up with, being able to stand, being able to take. There's a question here that I put down here too. What can you not tolerate? Some of you, if you're lactose intolerant, can't tolerate dairy products. Some of you may have peanut allergies. But if you're like me, what do I not have tolerance for? I don't like liars or thieves. I can't tolerate any trash in the trash cans at the house. I have to empty them every day. I know it's my OCD, but I don't care if there's one Q-tip in the bathroom trash can, I have to empty it. I'm weird, I know. My clothes hang in my closet by color, and I can't tolerate kicking my shoes off at the door and just leaving them there. They have to go in my closet. My black shoes right here, my black boots, they go in my closet beside my brown boots because I can't tolerate them laying out on the floor. That's weird. I can't tolerate if no one's in the room and a light is on. Strange, isn't it? I have to go turn that light off. So there are all kinds of things that we can tolerate. And the reason why I brought up this word for us to think about it is the Toleration Act of 1649 was a big step towards toleration of all religions over here in the British colonies, and we're going to put that in our notes here in a moment. All right, let's take a last look here. These are some of the things that you should already have. The last things you should have in your notes are these. We talked about the Great Migration, why it happened. We defined those terms right there. And by the way, I was been reading through your Salem witch trials assignments where you guys had to dig out some facts and research the Salem witch trials. And I have to say, you guys are teaching me a lot of things. As I read through them, I find those facts very interesting. You know, Tyler Farley, you did a particularly good job on yours and taught me some things with those facts that you put in there. So most of you guys who have done that assignment already, and it's not due till Wednesday, the December the 9th, but most of you guys who've done that have done real well on it and taught me a lot of things about the Salem witch trials. But these were the last things we put in our notes: the Great Migration, the time period when thousands of people left England and moved to the New World. Do the dance there. I'll have to redo it. You ready? The Great Migration. The time period when thousands and thousands of people left England and moved to the New World. That way you can always remember that. So get out your notes. These are the last notes we're going to add in. And we're going to start here with EQ number 7. You can pause this at any time to copy this down. But EQ number 7 asks us this important question. Well, what role did religion play in founding the Maryland colony? Well, it's important for us to note that Maryland was created for English Catholics who were going to leave England and move to the New World and come over here for a colony of their own. But later on, because of the Toleration Act of 1649, look what it did. It later tolerated all religions. First, it was created just for Catholics only to live there, but later it tolerated all religions. Now that was important because in the Puritan colony of New England, up in Massachusetts, where the Pilgrims came over, they weren't too keen on tolerating other religions. I think by your research on the Salem witch trials, you can take a look at the Puritan attitude towards witchcraft, their attitude towards their religion, and I think that it would be safe to say that they weren't going to tolerate people who believed differently than them. They came over and founded their colony for their religious freedom and for their religion, and they were going to practice their religion, and they weren't open to other people who believed different than them. In fact, there's going to be a question in an assignment later on where it asks you, were the Puritan Pilgrims, were the Puritans involved in the Salem witch trials, were they hypocrites or not? And it just gets you to think and dig a little bit deeper into that question. But Maryland, first of all, was established for any of the English Catholics who wanted to come over to the New World and practice their religion freely without being persecuted by the king, much like the Pilgrims did. But later on, Maryland decided, hey, you know what? Our colony's open to any religion, anybody who wants to come here, not just Catholics. That's a big step right there, to tolerate other religions. I mean, it seems like that's the first time we see religious toleration in the New World. And later on, when we become our own country of America, freedom of religion is a big part of the First Amendment and guaranteeing religious freedom to all Americans. And we see the beginnings of this with the colony of Maryland and how they first started out with Catholics only, but later on tolerated any religion. Now, there were also colonies in the South, besides Virginia, other colonies in the South, North Carolina, South Carolina. They weren't as religious based. They, of course, were more like Jamestown, dealt with money. But EQ number 8 says, well, what drove the economy in the southern colonies? What made their money? What made the money for these southern colonies like Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina? Well, it's pretty easy, pretty simple. Huge plantation farms drove the economy. Unfortunately, slave labor was involved. That's why I put my frowny face there. They used the slave labor to help work on the plantation farms. We already learned about that. And of course, the two crops that were the biggest were cotton and tobacco. These were the two crops that were the biggest. So if you think about it a moment, we had Jamestown, a business venture founded for money and for land. You have the Pilgrims who came over to escape persecution in England and to practice their religion freely. You had Maryland, a colony founded and established for Catholics to move over from England and move to the New World where they could practice their religion freely. And of course, we're going to talk here in a moment about Pennsylvania, a colony founded by William Penn. That's why it's called Pennsylvania. It would be like, if Gracie Harrell founded a colony, it would be called Harrelvania. It was William Penn. He founded the colony of Pennsylvania, and it was for another different group of people, and this religion was known as the Quakers. We're going to put that in our notes next. So you have all of these different reasons. And then you had southern colonies like Virginia, which grew out of Jamestown. You had North Carolina, South Carolina. These colonies grew for money reasons, not religious reasons. They grew for money reasons on these plantation farms where the two major crops was tobacco and cotton. Now, we only have a few more notes to put in, but let's put in the last vocabulary word, proprietors. Now, that's a big fancy word. It also means the governor. We don't call, Governor Justice Proprietor Justice today. Like Proprietor Justice is going to speak to the media at 11 o'clock today. We don't usually say that. In fact, some of you guys out there might be Walking Dead fans. And if you are, this is really cool. But if you'll remember, the first real bad guy in The Walking Dead wasn't Negan. It wasn't the Whisperers. It was the governor. Y'all remember the governor from The Walking Dead, the early seasons? He was the first real bad guy of The Walking Dead, the governor. So proprietors are the governor. These were the people who not only owned the colony, but controlled it as well. So yes, there was a proprietor of South Carolina. There was a proprietor of Pennsylvania, which was William Penn. There was a proprietor of Virginia. Now let's talk about William Penn, because he established Pennsylvania for this other religious group known as the Quakers. We would probably relate them today to Amish people. Amish people are really interesting to me. In fact, these Amish people, we still have, communities in our country today. There's some in Pennsylvania. There's some Amish communities in Ohio. And, they still live life without modern conveniences that some of the rest of us use. I admire them a lot, and they're great furniture makers, too. I love to look at Amish furniture that they handcrafted, and they're very talented at that. But we would relate the Quakers to what we visualize in our mind today as the Amish people. The Quakers, very peaceful people, nonviolent. They didn't believe in any kind of violence. The Quakers believed that all people had this inner light inside them, and that the good Lord would help you get in touch with this inner light to make you a better person. But for our definition here, we're going to put the religious group that Pennsylvania, the colony of Pennsylvania, was founded for. I have a niece in North Carolina. Her name is Carissa, and she had an assignment once that intrigued me a lot from her history teacher. But it was about what role did the Quakers play in the American Revolutionary War. Now, we haven't got to the Revolutionary War yet in this class, but we're working towards that. But it was very intriguing as I looked at some of her work and researched it and talked about that question with her. Because, remember, the Quakers were nonviolent people. Would they get involved in the American Revolutionary War? And many of them, were involved in the Revolutionary War on the side of the Patriots, and their religion kept them from actually fighting, but they helped as nurses. They helped as sew outfits and garments for the soldiers. They helped with food. So they helped in their own way fight the war without actually fighting themselves. But there was a group of Quakers who joined the war and actually did fight in the war. And it was kind of strange. It went against everything that their religion said, but they felt like that their inner light had spoken to them and that it was okay to fight in this war for freedom. And that was kind of like Carissa's, my niece's whole, project that she had to work on there. So very, very interesting stuff. Now, the last couple words here, we're going to take a couple proprietors here and put them in our notes. William Penn was a proprietor. You already know this. He founded the colony of PA, that stands for Pennsylvania, for the Quakers. Therefore, the name William Penn, Pennsylvania. So we have a lot of colonies, a lot of the colonies in our country's early years were founded for religious purposes. And then you have Georgia. James Oglethorpe was the proprietor of Georgia. Now, you can go ahead and pause this and copy this down. He founded the colony of Georgia, and the people that came over for Georgia weren't coming over for religious purposes. They weren't coming over for money and land and profit on the plantation farms. But look, he founded the colony of Georgia for some convicts. Now, I must explain. Now, first of all, they didn't take hardened criminals like murderers and rapists. They took more blue collar, white collar criminals, people who didn't pay their taxes and those kinds of things. And to keep the jails from being so full in England, they just decided that, hey, we can move them to the New World and start a colony for them. Now, the real reason behind all this was not mainly just to be nice to people, but remember, below Georgia is Florida. Florida at this time in our world history was controlled by Spain. So there was a belief that maybe the Spanish might actually invade some of the British colonies from the south, from Florida. So the colony of Georgia put a pretty good buffer zone in there between Florida and South Carolina and North Carolina and Virginia. And of course, if you found it with convicts and then Spain wanted to attack from Florida through Georgia, then you had the convicts at least standing in the way first. They were your first line of defense. So maybe not such a bad idea, really. But it's kind of funny, you have the Pilgrims, the Puritan colony of Massachusetts. They come over for religious freedom. Maryland is founded for religious freedom and for Catholics first, but later on tolerated all religions. Pennsylvania, founded by William Penn for the Quakers. And then, of course, you had the southern colonies with these. These were founded for money reasons, huge plantation farms, tobacco, cotton. Unfortunately, they used slave labor. And then you have Georgia. It was just founded with convicts. Very strange start to our American history, I guess, if you look at it that way. So let's go take down our last vocabulary word. We started out this little lesson talking about tolerance, what you can tolerate. The Toleration Act of 1649. This was passed in the colony of Maryland, and it made it a crime to discriminate against any religion. Now think about Maryland, what Maryland did. It first opened to Catholics only, but then opened to tolerate any religion. So the Toleration Act of 1649 made it a crime to discriminate against any religion. And like I told you before, this is the first seed or the first signs that we see in America for religious freedom, which is a foundation of our country. Which reminds me of what Tyler Farley talked to me about in his Salem witch trials. One of the facts that he looked up was and pointed out, now I'm not trying to embarrass you, Tyler, because it's really good, but he pointed out that witchcraft is officially recognized today in our society as a religion. Some of you may recognize it as the Wiccans. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm very unfamiliar with this religion, of course, but since we have religious tolerance and freedom in America today, you know, Tyler Farley pointed out, one of the facts he looks up, it pointed out that, you know, if you are involved in the Wiccan community or the witchcraft community, you don't have to worry about the Salem trials happening again because your religion is tolerated and protected by our First Amendment. So Tyler Farley pointed that out to me, which was good. So this is the last of our Unit 2 notes. There's going to be a couple of assignments in there for you to work on. So keep up with all your due dates and deadlines. Make sure that you get those things done on time and submitted in on Schoology. Hopefully I can see all of you at school soon. And then we can get through COVID, we can get through bad weather, and we can be back to normal, hopefully, very, very soon. Hope you took good notes. If you missed part of the notes, I will try to upload a copy of these notes into our Schoology, into our Unit 2 folder. But you can also go back and look at all the videos and just fast forward through me talking until there's a screen there and pause it, and you can copy down those notes as well. Hope to see all of you soon. And keep up with Schoology as we wrap up Unit 2 and move on to Unit 3 here next week sometime. Talk to you guys soon.